Hey guys, this is White Trump 101. A few years back, they made this giant thing that they're going to be putting in every city. And remember that the false prophet gives power to the beast to talk. Check this out. This is the new Barbie movie. Look at that. This is mind-blowing. Check that out. How in the world did they do that? Can you imagine that be the Antichrist speaking right there, guys? Can you imagine that? This is absolutely mind-blowing. Look at this technology now. He gives power to the image of the beast.
To host a screening at Bedminster of the important new film, Sound of Freedom, about the power of faith in overcoming evil, and in particular, the evil of child trafficking. Big problem. We had it down to the lowest number in many years just 4 years ago, and now it's gone through the roof. Even though the fake news media has tried to ignore it, Sound of Freedom has been a national sensation and a colossal success at the box office, really big numbers. Everyone should see it. This is a very important film and very important movie, and it's a very important documentary all wrapped up in one. It's really about an issue that has to be discussed. Under my leadership, we did more than any administration in history to combat human trafficking and to end modern-day slavery. In one of my first acts in office, I signed an executive order targeting transnational criminal organizations that traffic and exploit innocent people. I signed the Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act, authorizing $430 million to fight sex and labor trafficking. I signed legislation to crack down on foreign countries who are not meeting standards for eliminating trafficking, of which there are many. I also signed into law the Abolish Human Trafficking Act, which strengthened programs supporting survivors and provided more resources for ending modern slavery. We do have modern slavery, if you can believe it. Additionally, I created the first ever White House position focused solely on combating human trafficking. And perhaps most importantly, we created the most secure border in U.S. history by far, dealing a major blow to the cartels and traffickers. We built hundreds of miles of wall. We renovated hundreds of miles of wall. We never had anything like it. And then I got Mexico free of charge to give us 28,000 soldiers to protect us from people coming into our country illegally. When I am back in the White House, I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable women and children. We will fully secure the border. I will wage war on the cartels just as I destroyed the ISIS caliphate, 100% gone, 100% destroyed. They'll come back now because we have a weak administration. I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries and without delay. And I will urge Congress to ensure that anyone caught trafficking children across our border receives the death penalty immediately, and that includes also for women, because women, as you know, are number one in trafficking. Children are actually number two. I want to thank Eduardo, Jim, Tim Ballard, and everyone else involved in this film for their incredible efforts and their great genius. Together, we will end the scourge of human trafficking, and we will defend the dignity of human life. Thank you very much.
captured on camera. Japanese and local astronomers say the Chinese satellite was recently seen beaming down green lasers over the islands. This video captured atop the Subaru telescope on Mauna Kea, operated by the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan. Bryce Moore has the story.
The lasers flash for just a couple seconds. Initially thought to be from a NASA altimeter satellite, the Japanese put out a correction note on Monday saying NASA scientists found a most likely candidate as the ACDL instrument by the Chinese Daki-1 AEMS satellite. I went to a University of Hawaii astronomer who read up on AEMS instruments.
It's a Chinese satellite that is measuring pollutants, among other things. It has many different instruments on it, some kind of topographical mapping, or they're also used for measuring stuff in the Earth's atmosphere. And I think that's what it is. It's an environmental measurement satellite.
I also sat down with the former Chief of Staff of Marine Forces Pacific. He had some questions.
I'm not sure, this is my opinion, why the Chinese, who were probably some of the most prolific polluters on the planet, would be collecting data on pollutants on this side of the Pacific.
Both experts.
Oh my gosh, look at the harbor. Oh my God.
And we're going to give a little update on the Hawaiian fires. Now I want you to look at this footage. And this surely doesn't look like a fire to me. It looks like something almost exploded or something went off. Now what's interesting is certain things are still standing while other things are not. Now the governor did say this is climate change doing this. Interesting. What they don't talk about is in January how they had in Maui a smart city conference to turn Maui into an entire smart island, changing everything to electric, renewables, solar panels, and pushing everybody into electric vehicles. 15-minute smart cities. So now what's also interesting is next month in September, Hawaii is hosting the Digital Government Summit utilizing AI to govern the island. It's almost like they're resetting something to start rebuilding for this in which they're trying to push. Now when we look at all the climate change narrative that they're going to try to push, but they're not going to talk about the Weather Modification Act of 1976. I highly recommend everybody look into this act, because who is involved in the weather modification activities? Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense, Department of Interior, EPA, and NASA. So if they're modifying the weather, then could they have caused this event? So if we see that the Department of Defense and other factions are responsible for modifying the weather, well then if we look at direct energy weapons, we can maybe see how this can all relate to this event.
Now our Verified team is looking into claims about fires after several U.S. food processing plants went up in flames in recent months.
WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg looks into what we know about the circumstances tonight.
Recent fires at food processing plants across the U.S. have several people speculating online if something else is behind them. This tweet notes a, quote, odd coincidence that, quote, 18 U.S. food processing facilities burned down in the last 6 months. The question that we're looking at today, are people setting food processing plants on fire intentionally in order to create a food shortage? Let's verify. Our sources, Sam Gage-Jack, the communications manager for the American Association of Meat Processors, Sarah Little, the vice president of communications for the North American Meat Institute, Tom Super, the senior vice president of communications for the National Chicken Council, fire officials in each case, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, otherwise known as the USDA. In a statement, Little told us, quote, "We are not aware of any concerted effort to set food processing facilities on fire." Super told us, quote, "I can only speak for chicken, but like any manufacturing plant industry, there are genuinely a few fires that occur each year across the country. Most of them are contained rather quickly." Gage-Jack agrees.
We've not seen anything that points to it being suspicious in any way. A lot of them seem to be mechanical failures or just very unfortunate, tragic things that happen, but nothing that was deliberate.
So let's break down the number on what we learned from fire officials. 11 of the fires were either ruled accidental or no foul play was suspected. 6 others are still under investigation. The other one was at a vacant building that once housed a meat plant, but no longer does. Another note, while the tweet mentions 18 fires in 6 months, only 12 of them actually happened in that time frame.
According to a report from the USDA, the U.S. has about 36,000 food and beverage processing establishments in operation. Gage-Jack says fires at just 18 plants would not cause a disruption to the food supply.
A new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
A new world order behind closed doors. The storm will pass, we will survive.
You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
A new world order behind closed doors. The storm will pass, we will survive. We will rise again. Our house will rise again. We will rise again. Our world will rise again.
Health alert tonight. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says leprosy cases are surging in Florida, and Central Florida is seeing the most. Florida was among the top reporting states, and almost a fifth of all cases were reported in Central Florida. Terry Parker is live tonight with what you need to know about this disease. Terry?
Tiffany, leprosy, also known as Hansen disease, is an age-old disease that affects the skin and the nerves. And it's happening so often right now in Central Florida that doctors across the U.S. who are treating the disease are urged to ask their patients if they've been to Florida recently. Yet, still, the mystery of why it's happening is unsolved. The CDC
controversy was cleansed.